Welcome everybody to the War and Peace Fantasy Podcast. I'm here today with Farbode Markazi and Alex Rudy. I'm Alex Uwe. How are we doing? Here we are for the second show.
Pretty great.
Feel great. First show as an 18-year-old.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
I'm legal now.
This is actually both of your guys' first times doing this particular format, so that should be a lot of fun. We'll go ahead and start off by talking about some of the top performances from today anyway. We'll answer a couple questions that we got, and then we'll do another segment of Here to Stay or Keep Away, kind of like what we did last week. And then we'll give you a quick weekend preview, and that'll be that. All right, let's get right into it with Bryce Harper, the 2017 MVP, right? Is it too early to say that? Probably. 2 home runs, a grand slam, not to mention a nice 4-for-4 day.
Just another day at the ballpark.
Yeah, and Julio Teheran, he has absolutely got his number, so
I think
take advantage, I guess.
I've had before season, I drafted him pretty high up for where he was ranked in fantasy because for some reason some people came up told me why'd you draft him so high? I was like, he is arguably one of the best hitters in the game. If you think last year was how he hit is who he is, then you're just off. I think he's back. I don't think he's necessarily. I mean, I think he's insane. Do you guys? This is something I heard today. I heard Trout's the best overall player. Harper's the best pure hitter in the game. What do you guys think?
No, that's not. I don't think that's true at all.
I think Harper's just the second best player in the game, but I would never say he's the best pure hitter in the game.
I think Miguel Cabrera is the best pure hitter in the game in my mind.
I think there's like 5 or 6 guys. There's like 5 or 6 guys who are better pure hitters than Harper.
Yeah, I think that's.
I think Harper's. I think I replied with I think Miguel is more of a like Uwe said. I think he's more of a pure hitter than Harper is, but I still think, like Rudy said, I think Harper is the second best player in the game.
He definitely is, in my opinion.
Well, I mean that's a bit of a stretch for me even there, but this is a fantasy show, and he is by far, one of the better fantasy producers. Even in a down year, he was a really nice asset to have. There's absolutely everything to love about him. He's not exactly a big question mark there. Neither is Freddie Freeman, also showing off in this same series. And also against the Padres a little bit. 12 straight plate appearances on base, including 3 home runs in that mix. Not bad at all. And Freeman is one of those guys who I think earlier in his career we were wondering if he would actually take that next step and become what he is, and I think that's the Braves got a pretty nice player in Freddie Freeman right there.
Isn't he on a pretty cheap contract too, or is that a different guy?
Relatively speaking, I think it's not like.
I mean, for the guy, for the hitter he is, and the market we have right now is probably pretty. They got a pretty good deal out of it.
I remember that him and Hayward broke through. I think the same year, both in their very early 20s, and they both had great years for their ages. And then Hayward's honestly never became a consistent producer. And I know Freeman had on the offensive side of the game, and he's obviously a great defender. And then Freeman, had a couple of down years here and there, but he's finally, honestly, truly establishing himself as one of the game's top players on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah, I think it was since second half of last year where he started taking off, and I mean he's. Like you say, he's one of the after a couple down years, he's finally started taking off and being the hitter that we that was previewed in his rookie year too.
Yeah, I mean, do you like Hayward for this year? By the way, that's probably a better question that it's not as easy to answer.
I think he'll be fine, but he'll never be the offensive player that I think we all thought he should have been 3 or 4 years ago.
Do you like him at all for fantasy? Do you think he's even an ownable player?
I mean, I own him right now in one of our leagues as
I guess yes.
Injury replacement. But I don't own him as an injury replacement player. I think he's a solid bottom end outfielder. like one of the like lower level players that like an average team league would.
He's definitely much more valuable to the Cubs on the field than fantasy wise.
Just not a consistent enough producer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with you there. We got Dexter Fowler also finally breaking out a little bit from a super cold start. 3 for 4 day with 2 homers today as well. He's a little bit more interesting than these guys that are obviously fantasy stars at this point. Fowler's the kind of guy I think a lot of people are nervous about because he's got this change of scenery, he's different lineup, and he really didn't provide that much before his year with the Cubs last year. So, what do you see for him going forward? Nothing. That's a bleak future then. I think, like I guess there's not enough.
I would say Dexter Fowler had a career year last year. In my opinion, I don't think he'll reach those numbers, especially I think he had a really hot start, right? If I remember correctly, and he kind of cooled down on the stretch. But he's always been a consistent contributor at least a above average level. And so if you need those outfield points, I think he's a safe bet. But I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that like wins your team a league or anything. Yeah. He's a complimentary piece, and I think he's very low risk, but he's not ever going to be really a high reward player, I think, on a season to season basis.
I think he's one of those guys that's that will help your team, that will contribute, but he's not going to be your go-to outfielder that obviously that you're going to look for in the draft or like or like necessarily try to trade for. He's a nice piece. He's not a wow. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's saying he's going to be that piece. I think people are wondering if he's going to be a piece that people like want to own. That's more the question there. It seems like both of you at least think he's safe enough. And I tend to agree. I do own him, and I've stuck it out with him, and I'm not concerned about him hitting like 220 or anything this season. He's not that kind of guy.
I wouldn't be too worried if I was owning him, unless you desperately need the points or he's just an extra piece that you don't really need. I would not like stress out about him coming back.
Yeah. One last player from this Wednesday slate of games that I wanted to highlight is Jason Vargas, who
is it? Question: aren't sorry, I know you were going to say his performance, but aren't these starts like his first since Tommy John? I'm pretty sure. I don't think so. I don't think he came back.
He was injured last year. He was injured last year, like dealt with other lingering things. He was back last year, though. He was there for some part of the season last year.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest.
I didn't remember him at all.
I completely forgot that Jason Vargas was still in the league.
My point exactly.
Well, now that I've jogged your memories, is there anything?
Like not before now. I'm just saying before this, like he get off this tour to start. I was just like, whoa, like he's still on the Worlds. Like I kind of just assumed by this point he kind of fallen off. I think that makes this start incredibly surprising and very unlikely to stay. Keep going.
So you're not rushing to the waiver wire to pick him up, is what I'm saying.
Not at all. Nope. Seems like a very, very suspicious case of
suspicious
hot start. So he's definitely going to regress to his median career at the very most.
Yeah, I think what this says, the biggest story surrounding this is the fact that the Giants are a really weak offense right now, and there's not much question about that. Like, they don't really have enough going for them, especially because their former MVP, Buster Posey, is basically not producing anything. It's not even like that big of a health issue. Like, they've got their guys, they're just not producing. Like, it's
is their best hitter right now Madison Bumgarner?
No, that's a bit of a stretch.
Got hurt.
Posey did get hit in the head, and he was on the 7-day concussion list, but he came back, and I guess that means he's okay, but we don't really know for sure to what extent. Are you worried about Buster Posey at all if there's concussion symptoms lingering?
100%.
Because this is a guy I think we know the power is not really going to be kind of what it was before, but you look at him, he's one of the better just pure hitters from a catcher standpoint will hit for a decent average and drive in a lot of runs because he hits, third or fourth in the order. But, if he's not going to produce, then I think he definitely doesn't warrant the, the average draft position that he got, I think, up in the earlier rounds, like in the fifth and sixth rounds. That's way too early to be drafting any catchers, really. So, I'm not dropping Buster Posey, but I'm keeping an eye on that situation, and hopefully it's not a lingering thing. Speaking of the Giants, we can let's go ahead and get into our first question that we've gotten. This one was from Facebook, but best ways to ask us questions are either on that page, that Facebook page. You can tweet at us. The information for that will be in the description as well, or you can email us as well, and that would be a great option if you don't have the social media stuff going on. Our email is down below as well, or you can just leave comments. Like we'll see it anywhere, basically. So this first question though is asking, will Brandon Belt ever be a consistent hitter? And he's wondering, has the shift destroyed any chance he has at being consistently productive?
No.
You care to elaborate a little bit?
I'm answering to the shift question because honestly, speaking on a general basis about the shift, excuse me. I don't understand why. I mean, honestly, if you put the ball down the line, it's a hit every time. And then if you do it enough, they can't shift against you because they know that's in your arsenal, and that's something you can do, and that's a base runner. That'll help your team. That'll help your average. And then the shift, they'll do less of the shift, and then in the turn, you'll be helped as a hitter because they're not covering where they would be on the shift.
I think that was a really unhelpful answer. I'm just going to be straight up honest because that is not what Brandon Belt is known for. You just basically said a way to defeat a shift, and that is not something that him or a lot of other hitters are doing. So the fact is, that is not relevant.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. That's why I said on a general basis. I don't understand why hitters don't do it because it could help them very much down in the long run. Other than that,
So still nothing. Okay.
I don't know.
You got anything, Rudy?
I don't know if he'll ever be consistent.
Brandon Belt's just not that good, and you shouldn't be relying on fantasy. If he's just I would say he's similar to Jason Hayward. He's like the bottom of what I would say good team.
That's a little bit too
That's
far.
Pretty bad.
Jason Hayward was really bad last year.
Wait, you didn't let me finish. But maybe it's too. Okay, how about probably Dexter Fowler then? It's someone who just isn't going to win you the league or anything, and it's really just more of a positional filler that is competent and won't lose you points. But I would never be striving to rely on Brandon Belt in fantasy and expecting him to be some great producer. He gets you what you need at first base, but I mean I don't think consistently really comes with that. He's just a mediocre, a slightly above average at best first baseman.
Yeah, I like that Fowler comp a little bit more. You got to be careful throwing names like Jason Hayward and Brandon Belt around in the same realm because that's going to get very confusing and they're definitely not in the same.
That was very bold,
class
Rudy.
by any means.
Okay, at least I didn't say Trey Turner deserved the MVP.
Well, you know what? That was completely non-fantasy related. Clearly, he's going to be the fantasy MVP. I'm just kidding, by the way. Or am I? But Brandon Belt is, I agree with that. He is what he is. I think it's just in terms of power because he won't drag down your batting average. He'll put up decent RBI numbers with that team where he hits. It's very, very average, very replacement level. I'm not going to drop him if he's off to a bad start. I'm not going to drop anybody at this point if they're off to a bad start. That's just ridiculous.
If you're stressing out about his consistency, your team has bigger issues.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, I would say that as well. So let's move on to our other question here. This one is asking for our input on Andrew Benintendi, of course. who is...
So, sorry, my bad.
I was just going to say who is off to, an okay start, but not a Rookie of the Year type start. So, what do you see in terms of those Rookie of the Year prospects going forward?
I think just regarding from a fantasy perspective, first Rookie of the Year, first of all, sorry, I'll just answer that first. He could definitely achieve it, I would say, but he wouldn't be one of those seasons where it's just a standout Rookie of the Year to remember. It would just be, I would say, a very good season, especially for a rookie, but it wouldn't be anything I would, it wouldn't be like, like Trey Turner last year, like Gary Sanchez performance if he continued it. It wouldn't be, I don't think it's going to be a dominating performance, but he's still, I think, going to continue his high average and good OBP and his consistency he started off as so far. I think regarding in fantasy, keeper league, I think he has a lot more value just because he's definitely going to be a long-term safe asset that's going to give you lots of points. I kind of think Christian Yelich is maybe a good comparison. It's for his floor, I would say, in fantasy.
That's a pretty nice floor.
It's a great floor. I think he's almost at that level now already. But I don't think he's, especially in a single season, going to lead your team to anything. He's not a complimentary piece in the same way I was saying Brandon Bell or Dexter Fowler was. He's definitely solid, but I don't think he'll ever be, especially not this season, producing numbers that are leading the league in any category or, in the top 10 producers offensively in your league.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with, I'll go and call them the fun stats, the home runs and the stolen bases, because, that stuff is not, he's not going to dominate those categories by any means, and he's not going to hit 30 home runs this year, I don't think. I think Christian Yelich is probably the perfect comp for him, because early on in Yelich's career, as you remember, the question was, will he develop that power stroke? He was a sweet swinging lefty that you knew he could hit for a decent batting average and, stick around at the big league level. That wasn't in the question. It was, can he take that next step? I don't think Benintendi's there yet, but I think, obviously he's young and he's very new to the league. I think he's got plenty of power in the bat in the future. But this year, I don't know. I can project 15 to 20 homers and probably about the same in stolen bases. Maybe a little bit less than that.
Rudy basically took the words out of my mouth, so I have nothing more to add. I think he's going to be. I still have him as my Rookie of the Year. Rudy said what I needed to say.
All right then, we got that done. Then those are the only questions that we got this week. But of course, please ask us any questions. We'll answer all of them. That's what we want to do here. We want to help. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next little segment here. Here to stay or keep away. We got 3 players we're going to talk about, and we'll break them down for you. I think these are
I don't know if Rudy's going to know one of them.
I don't know if he's going to know any of them, actually. We'll go ahead and start with the really funky name, Antonio
Senzatela.
Senzatela? Is that how you pronounce it?
Senzatela.
I think that is spelled wrong, because
Senzatela.
In our little document here, I think you spelled that quite wrong, because I'm pretty sure it is Senzatela.
I'm sorry, Antonio.
Butchering names aside, he is a Rockies pitcher, if that was unknown to you, which I'm sure it was.
3 good starts.
I had no idea who that was.
I think what that note that I just made right there is kind of the kiss of death. Rockies pitcher does not equal here to stay for most people, but off to a good start, and I think the Rockies rotation in general is off to an okay start for what we've seen. We've seen some other good pitching performances so far. This and that bullpen, man, that is something else right there. But I can't really go that in depth on a guy who pitches for the Rockies. I can't. I can't give him much. You got to play matchups. You got to play him in road starts. I like him otherwise. Anything else to add? I don't imagine you have much to say, Rudy. So.
I mean,
not bad.
He's shown a lot that you could, like you said, you could play him in matchups and that stuff. But I think he's shown enough for if he was on a different team for you to consider. but I don't want to. I wouldn't necessarily use a pitcher spot to only play when he's on the road or facing like the Padres or something at home.
Yeah, I mean, like the numbers are. We never actually threw the actual numbers out there right now. In 3 starts,
19 innings, 14 Ks, 2.37 ERA, .95 WHIP, a 241 BABIP.
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 That is all. Okay, like it's obviously not gonna last like that in Coors Field. Even the better Coors pitchers, it's impossible to maintain that level basically. But I think he's 22 years old. He's a name you should look at.
So
in future
keep in
years.
mind.
Yeah, keep in mind, but not here to stay for the purposes of your team this season. I wouldn't pick him up off the waiver wire. Let's talk about the other pitcher we got here, and this guy is a lot more intriguing in my mind. Amir Garrett for the Reds. Off to another, similar to Senzatela, really, really good start. And this guy is more of the your typical prospect profile. He's been one of the top pitchers in the Reds organization for a year and a half now. And he was one of those guys that nobody really wanted to look at going into the season. Like, we talk about young pitchers a lot, and his name was surprisingly.
Because he's on the Reds.
I mean, obviously that's got to do something with it, but right now 1.83 ERA and a .86 WHIP is pretty impressive for a guy like this, and he had a 12 strikeout performance today against the Orioles of all teams. This is not, your matchup based game right there. He did lose to Ubaldo Jimenez, but 7 innings, 2 runs, 12 Ks against a very righty, heavy hitting lineup is very, very nice for a young left-handed pitcher. You guys have anything to say about this young lefty?
Do you think he's here to stay? I may have missed that.
I think it was a little bit implied that I think he's here to stay because.
But you didn't say those words.
I'm singing his. Okay, there you go. I said it.
I agree with you. I think he's here to stay. And it's kind of funny because I know Coors Field is much more of a hitter's park, but I mean it's not like Great American Ballpark or wherever the Reds play isn't either. But it's just like you said, he's one of those guys that's been a Reds top prospect, and not much hype on him coming into the year, and I think it's because he's on the Reds. But I think he's here to stay. He's shown a lot already, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and say really quick why I think this is a little bit of a different case than most other young pitchers that come up and have pretty decent starts to their career and then kind of trail off. Like I said, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that this is a new guy to the league, and hitters have not had a chance to face him yet, especially guys in the same division. And I think we've seen a lot of pitchers struggle later on in their either their rookie campaign or their sophomore season because batters get a better look at him and he can't adjust as well. I think the intriguing part here to me is that he's not been the typical 4 to 5 inning rookie pitcher with the high strikeouts. Like that is not what he is at all. He has been pitching pretty deep into the games with low pitch counts, and I think there's a lot to like there because of that. So yeah, we can go ahead and move on here though. Jesus, what the hell is that?
What is that?
Can't ignore that anymore. Like that is Rudy, you there?
Hey, what's up?
Are you crumbling all your papers that you own?
I'm not.
Suspicious. Okay. Let's talk about this last guy we got here, though, and that's A.Garcia. Obviously, if you haven't looked at any stats lately, the hottest hitter in baseball right now. And if you looked at his stats from last year, not a very good hitter. So there's some middle ground there. Like, he was a promising guy a few years ago, but really has not produced anything impressive.
He was part of a blockbuster trade in 2013, but people just don't like it. People don't remember. I guess he was like a pretty highly touted piece back then, and he kind of just did nothing for like 3 years. But maybe he finally figured it out. I don't know.
I mean, he's only 26.
I guess, but you know,
yeah.
His BABIP is like somewhere around like 540 right now. There's 0% chance it lasts to that extent. So I think he's obviously gonna regress a lot. I think it's gonna be closer to last season's stats, closer than people would want. I think. I personally am keeping away.
Yep.
All right, then. We'll give you a quick weekend preview before we wrap up this fantasy podcast here. We got one interleague series going on this weekend, and that's the Yankees at the Pirates. So I guess in terms of like a DH situation, you know, look for, I guess, guys like Adam Frazier and, you know, fill in guys like that will get... what am I saying? It's the opposite. Look for guys on the Yankees to lose that DH spot. I don't know who exactly that's going to affect, probably like Matt Holliday or something like that. We should go ahead and throw that out there that Starling Marte is, in fact, not playing for 3 months of the season because he's been suspended for 80 games. I think that was probably something we should have mentioned earlier on. But Starling Marte, what are you doing with him? Because I've seen a lot of people dropping him, but let's not forget that there will still be about 60-some games where he will play. So I don't know why people are so ready to drop him right away.
Yeah, I wouldn't drop him right away unless like you're desperate for roster space.
I have him on one of my teams. I'm not dropping him. I'm just gonna stash him until.
I would consider trading him though for the right if it's like a price that's worth it for you, because who knows how he'll be once he comes back.
Yeah, I can't imagine you'll get him at peak value during the suspension anyway. So you'll probably have to hold on to him. Yeah. You know, you can't drop a player as productive as he is unless, of course, you have like no bench or something like that, and you just need that roster space. But in most cases, you're not going to, even if it's like a 3-player bench. Keep him. It's worth it. You can't put him on your DL, but it's still worth it. In every aspect there. You guys like anybody in particular in this Yankees-Pirates matchup? You know, hitters. It's PNC Park is not a hitter's park, so that's going to be one to avoid for hitters, I'd imagine. But what pitchers do you like this weekend?
Who's throwing this weekend? I know Pineda and Glasnow are throwing. I'm interested in Glasnow because I just traded for him.
Yeah, Glasnow is coming off of a pretty shaky couple of first starts. But, you know, obviously...
Tyone's throwing.
Tyone coming off of another really impressive start where he beat... I'm blanking on who he beat now, but he beat Jake Arrieta, right? Is that... No, John Lester of the Cubs.
Ivan Nova.
It came into my head there. I like Tyone a lot,
former
actually.
Yankee.
I'm kind of curious if CC continues his good string of starts to start this year.
Yeah, CC has been... He did that last year, actually, where he was putting together a nice string of quality starts and, you know, kind of silencing some of those guys, some of the people out there saying his career is over, because he's clearly not done. He's definitely made some adjustments to be more efficient. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the names that are relevant we've already mentioned. You kind of snuck Nova's name in there. I think that's going to be a fun reunion. What do you think? You know, it's always hard to say because, like, I feel like in reunions, it's either the pitcher just absolutely dominates or gets absolutely shelled. You know, I feel like there's no in between. Is it gonna be like a Zach Greinke Dodgers reunion where he gets absolutely spanked, or is it gonna be like I'm trying to think of one where he just absolutely shuts them down?
Is this fair for Yankee fans to be answering this?
I think it's perfectly fair because you know, we
once butthurt that he's doing good right now.
We once indulged in Ivan Nova.
I'm considering the whole rotation's having a pretty decent start. I would say I'm not butthurt. No.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I personally don't have any feelings on Ivanova, so I don't really care if he does.
He's just a mediocre, like,
shelled.
third or fourth pitcher. I'm not really too upset that he's no longer a Yankee, to be honest, regardless if he... I always knew he'd perform better on the Pirates anyways, because they're like magic.
There's a lot of
mediocre starters.
All right then. Probably the biggest matchup of the weekend is probably the Nationals at the Mets. That's always a fun one to watch. Obviously, you've got Bryce Harper, who's sizzling hot, and Daniel Murphy, Ryan Zimmerman, among names.
Matt Harvey, Jacob deGrom, and Harvey are throwing this weekend.
Yeah, and I, for the names that I just mentioned, I like them less than I do against other teams. I don't think Matt Harvey is going to fare very well against the lefty-heavy middle of that order. DeGrom is coming off like a 13-strikeout game. He is what he is. He's going to strike out a lot of batters and basically be an ace, but, against a really good lineup. I think I'm not going to lean towards any pitchers in this series. I don't know if they're going to get Scherzer against the Mets. I think his turn might come on Sunday.
I'll check.
But unless it's, these teams just go at each other in every matchup, I feel like. Even when a guy like Scherzer and DeGrom go, it's not exactly clean. But
MLB.com says Wheeler's throwing on Sunday.
Against Scherzer or?
Against TBD.
Okay. So it could be. But
that's going to be interesting if Wheeler does.
These are some really good lineups. These are some really good lineups, is the point. And I'm not exactly excited to use any pitchers this weekend in this series.
The Mets live and die off the home run, though.
I think a lot of teams do nowadays.
Yeah.
Asdrubal Cabrera is one of those guys having a very nice start to the season, kind of continuing where he was last year for the Mets. Jay Bruce has gotten hot as of late. There's bats to like there. Obviously, Cespedes hit like 6 home runs against the Phillies, but that's the Phillies. Does that even count? I don't think so.
They're not the most depressing team in baseball anymore.
All right, I guess that means they count then.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some other interesting matchups out there. Red Sox-Orioles is another slugfest where I would not pick any pitchers, especially at the Orioles ballpark. So stock up on your hitters there. Alex Meyer, this is your guy for the Angels here, who is going to get the start Friday against the Blue Jays, the ice-cold Blue Jays. Is this a good thing? Do you think he's going to actually take advantage?
I mean, possibly if the Angels are anything like the Angels of last year, where any cold team just comes and plays them, they suddenly get hot. Good for the Blue Jays, but I put Alex Meyer as one of the people I'm watching this week because they traded for him last year, and he's still one of those guys that obviously he's not what like he was not supposed to be, but like the potential was there, but like he's still
I think you cut out there. Unless you cut out there for me.
Where was I last?
I don't know. Honestly, like I don't. You didn't get much of that in there.
Alex Meyer is interesting. He's Angels traded for him. He's not the guy that he was supposed to, like. He's not the high potential guy that everyone saw, but he's still young, still throws hard, and honestly, the Angels haven't had very good starting pitching this year. So I'm excited to see if he can like do anything with this opportunity.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's just about it. There's Kluber and Quintana are matching up this weekend, so obviously not off to great starts, but it could be like a 1-0 game with these guys. So that's another one to look for, just especially at those performances, those two pitchers in particular. That is going to do it for our podcast today, though. Thanks for joining us again. Of course, ask us questions, leave us feedback. We'll accept all of that information for our Twitter at WPB_podcast down below. You check out our website. There's going to be a lot of good stuff there. We're going to start cranking out some articles as well, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. And make sure you subscribe to YouTube, iTunes, and we are now on SoundCloud if that is an option that you want to listen on. It is there for you as well. War and Peace Baseball on SoundCloud. Thanks again. We'll get you more information next time. As always,